Thank you very much. Okay, welcome everybody to this very first workshop, not about self as context, of course, but based on my book about self as context in therapy. And I spent like 3 years writing this book, and it was an awesome time for me. It was very challenging. And I had to do this process of self as context myself because in myself, it was not like I could write a book about that. But I did. So this is how it works. And I will show you the main points. How do you say that? I, um, Sometimes the English words are missing. I found that I found key and that are in my mind now when I'm working with my clients in my practice. And I will give you exactly those points so you can take that to your practice. Um, and I hope it will help you to your work better and more efficient and even with more self-care. And this is a free workshop. And I'm very committed to as many as possible therapists having the knowledge of self as context, like how I see it. There are others. We have Hank Robb here. He has written a book about self as context. So there are different views. And today you will give this very special point, you will get this very special point of view. And when you like it, and when you say that's worth it, you're very cordially invited to do a donation afterwards. It's for my NGO. Oh, and here you see how I'm received in Sierra Leone. When I'm coming, everybody's on the street and people are drumming and singing and waving because they are so happy they got ACT and pro-social, and they make a lot out of that. They do projects that help support families who live in poverty and with violence. We have trained a lot of local counselors. It's hundreds of people. And we also give shelter, medical care, and support to girls who survive sexual abuse. And that's just a few of the many things we do. And in the end, I will show this slide again. And if you need to leave earlier, maybe you want to snap it, that's the donation code. Okay. So what you will learn, and I said you will learn it experientially. What is self as context? How does it develop? And what happens when it does not go well? How do you recognize that in session? And we will do exercises for all three aspects of the self we define in ACT, self as process, self as context, and self as content, and self as context, to see how we can approach these different aspects differently in exercises. And it's not about self as context as a concept, but about the experience. And that's the invitation. And I think you will benefit a lot when you accept the invitation, because self as context is not a concept you can teach like like a teacher, you know. You can only give away what you experienced yourself. That's my very deep experience. Every time I have a like a breakthrough in my life, I have a bigger context in my life that shows up in my therapy room. And that is why. Why? Because we are other as context for our clients. We are the space they can step into to look at themselves. And that's like the main, like for me, that's the key of self as context. We are like a substitute for their self as context because they often are not so skilled in that regard. And they can learn it through us. That's what I tell my clients. You learn it through me, through my acceptance, through my openness, through my permission to be as you are. you learn to give that to yourself. And this is what is happening when a therapy goes well. And of course, we cannot help everyone, but many people benefit a lot from that. And I'll give you the two main slides first, because now you're fresh. So, two main slides from this whole presentation. The first one is for you. Can you connect to yourself now in a kind and loving way? Whatever that means for you in this moment. Can you do that? And we will do an exercise in a minute, but just to move your focus from what is there on the screen to, oh, I'm here right now, and that's me. And I'm glad I'm here. First slide, it starts with you. Second slide, for your client. Find out and observe if your client is able to notice and name their emotions and body experiences. That's the first key. And then, is your client able to take flexible perspectives at themselves and others? That are the two main distinctions I think we need in our therapy room to find out what's missing and what we can give to our clients, which exercises to choose. Notice and naming emotions, taking flexible perspectives. Okay? So now, what the heck is self as context? Looking at ourselves. And we do an exercise first. And I will stop the screen share now. And for that exercise, you can also close your video if you prefer that, because an exercise just for you. And this is an invitation. If you're not in a mood to do any exercise, just go and get something to drink or do whatever works best for you. But when you're willing to do a little exercise, to connect more to yourself, to give yourself a space, the invitation is to give yourself this one moment, just with yourself, to close your eyes and to feel yourself, to feel your body. Notice any body sensations, to feel your feelings, to notice your thoughts. Maybe you could say something to yourself like, hey dear, I'm so glad you're here. Or thank you, I'm glad we are here together, you and I. However you want to express that. And it doesn't have to be logic. Just acknowledge yourself for taking the time to learn something new, to connect to yourself. And notice that you're here at your screen because something was valuable for you to come. What is that? And if you achieve what is valuable for you, what would that mean for your work, your life, your future? And give yourself a moment to allow things to come up, thoughts to come up, ideas to come up. What would that mean for you if I get what I'm up to coming here? And to share what's valuable for me is to give this knowledge I learned when I wrote the book about self as context. because it changed my work as a clinician. And it helps me every day to help my clients. And it helps me in a challenging world to balance myself. And notice whatever it is for you, what is valuable. And to conclude this short exercise, maybe you can get aware that you took different perspectives. You noticed yourself. You were kind with yourself. You looked from the values perspective, now and in the future. You looked from my perspective as I shared it. So what you did is you practiced perspective taking and self as context. And when you're ready, you can get back, and I'm curious. Um, sorry. I'm curious what this exercise evoked, or how it was. If there's anything you would like to share. For example, what would be valuable for you here today? And when you're willing, you can switch your screen on and share. Anyone willing in a big group like that to share some pieces, just a few sentences? Yes, Philip.
It's funny how difficult it is to say to myself, I'm glad you're here. And it's funny because whenever I wake up my children in the morning, I say that to them. I'm glad you're here, blah, blah, blah. I hug them. So the words come naturally, but if I apply them to myself, it's a lot more difficult.
Hmm.
And it was a lot easier for me to connect to, what I value about being here, connecting with all of you, blah, blah, blah.
Hmm.
That was much easier for me in the first part.
Hmm.
And thank you for doing this with us.
Yes, that's very valuable, Philip. Thank you very much. You unlearned something, I guess. And thank you for giving it to your children anyway. Elia, you would like to share something?
Um, Similar to what Philip said, I had a pretty easy time kind of connecting to what I value and why this is meaningful. And then with that kind of present self as context, I would catch like glimpses of it. Like I'd have this kind of moment of like, okay, here I am. Wow. And it's this,
Yes,
I wouldn't say necessarily relaxing, but it's this kind of
it
almost
is.
uh expansive experience. Like I'm
Mm.
just here, right? That sounds kind
Mm.
of silly, but I'm just here. But very quickly, something would kind of draw me back into, oh, but yeah, then there's dot, 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 So I had to like kind of continue to bring myself back.
Mm. Oh, thank you so much for being such a great observer. This is exactly what it is. We get glimpses of it, and then we are drawn out of it again. Um, and it is relaxing. When we come to the present moment, it is relaxing because normally in the present moment, it is fine. Randy, you would like to share something?
I found it hard. I hope I'm remembering this correctly from the exercise to connect to well, your perspective in doing the workshop, I understood it,
Mhm.
but understanding isn't the same thing as a connection with empathy and more behind it, which I experience sometimes, but I could not easily tell myself to understand. I know why you're doing it, but I wonder if I don't feel it enough, or self as perspective. Seeing other people's perspective is not so easy for us some of the time because we're trying to figure out what is their real perspective, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
That's so great. Yeah. It's not so easy for us to take other people's perspective. And I mean, it's not necessary to take everyone's perspective. Maybe my perspective doesn't matter so much to you. That's fine too, you know. It's more when you feel that's an issue in your life. And maybe, yeah, you look at that. If it's repetitive or if it's just momentarily, it's okay to not connect to any perspective. Does that make sense, Wendy? Okay, great. And maybe last one, Samara.
Thanks. Excuse me.
Hey.
I what struck me about the practice was sort of towards the beginning with that invitation to to notice what's here and welcome all that's here is that um, it really opened me up for acceptance of what was showing up, kind of labeling it, and I found myself doing it in kind of a more playful way, which surprised me. I've been sick too, and I said, "Oh, here's my itchy nose," and I noticed my mind was very fluttering, and oh, and here's my buzzy brain, and it's all here, and it actually made me laugh a little bit, sort of take it lightheartedly, take it lightly, that this
Mm.
is what was here, and that it was okay, and it's all welcome. And so I know this is about self as context. However, there's like acceptance and self-compassion that I was really feeling and found it really helpful.
Awesome, Samara. And you named some of the key ingredients of self as context. I see it as acceptance in a bigger way, and self-compassion is a big part of self as context. I mean, it's very much related to the both capacities. Thank you for your willingness to share. I will share my screen again. Um, so you can see the slides again, right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, great. Um, oh, all right. Okay, that's one of my early drawings. It's, sorry. This is how most of our clients come to see us. Self is stuck. And this is not easy. We all know that, and it doesn't feel good. And mostly we are stuck in self as content. And what we can offer our clients is first getting conscious about being stuck. This is who we are, like the observer, and we can, yeah, give them like a pathway, like you did it in the little exercise. You got conscious about things, and from there you can work very differently than from talking, talking, talking. And what hopefully the result is that the self is liberated to be the self they want to be and not to repeat the same old story again and again, but to take that little person who repeats the story and find a new story, something that's like close to the heart. And to have a bit more academic definition of self as context. And there are multiple definitions. Becoming aware of the context of all our experiences. I find that very practical. And I was in a conversation with Rainer Sonntag that he said that becoming aware of the context of all our experiences, like who is noticing that? Or you can call it the experience of human consciousness. And it's definitely a behavior. Um, Oh yeah, now I see you again. It's definitely behavior. Um, it's not like an entity that's hovering over your head and we're like observing you.
Hey,
It is
Beate,
something you
we
do.
for some reason the slides were stuck on the post exercise questions, and you had mentioned a drawing,
Oh,
and I think we didn't see that, and I think we didn't see the other slides as well. Uh,
oh, wait, let me
but now
see.
we're seeing how to define self as context. So it must have been
So you didn't
frozen.
see the slides earlier?
No, I don't
Wait,
think so.
right. Can I go back? Let's do it like that. That were the three slides I
Oh, there you
showed.
go. That's a nice
That
drawing.
is self-stuck.
Okay.
That is getting aware, getting conscious about being stuck, which is a very important point.
Hmm.
And you all, I mean, or many of you experienced it in the little exercise where you are, and that it makes a difference to experience where you are versus knowing it. And then that's the liberated self to take that little one who's stuck and say, yeah, let's go, the direction where our heart goes, where our vision goes. That's my very simple way to do it. And yeah, that is how to define self as context. Any questions?
Thank
But
you.
oh, and that are the terms that are used in the literature, and that's very confusing. It took me a lot of time to reread all that because there are so many terms you can use: self as perspective, perspective taking, self-observer perspective, self-view, theory of mind. Um, so that's basically all meant with self as context. And I found a very practical definition for myself when I'm working. Self as context is the space you give to yourself and others, because self as context is very much our social capacity too. Randy said, it's difficult for me, or it was difficult for me to take your perspective. Okay, that's not a problem now, but maybe when it's your close friend or your spouse and he or she has a point of view you cannot share and it's very important for them, it can become a barrier in the relationship. Okay. Any questions about that? Any questions at all at this point that were difficult to address, important to address? Okay. And just to show that for the ACT people on the screen, self as context is one of the 6 core processes we work with, and we call that the hexagon, the flexible hexaflex. So how do we develop a self? We come to the world as babies, and there is nothing like a self. It's more the baby is relaxed or tense or something is pleasant or unpleasant. It's totally dependent. There are no self-doubts. I've never seen a baby who had self-doubts, like could I scream so much and torment my parents in the middle of the night? They don't have that because why? Because why don't why don't babies have self-doubts? Maybe it's a too easy question. Because you need language for that.
They're not self-conscious, I guess.
They're not conscious. Consciousness is something that exists in language, as at least how we define it in ACBS. That's a contextual point of view I present here. You have other, maybe spiritual path or other points of view that would define it differently. But we say self as context is a function of language. So we need language to develop a self. And we start with little things like this is a dog, this is a car. And then it comes to the internal world. And that's even more difficult. I feel sad or I'm a smart person. And that leads to becoming an individual. But we don't come to the world like that. We need to develop that. And when we have parents like Randy and others who are so like glad to have children and to express that. And normally it goes well, oh, children don't need so much. It's more like to give them feedback and to give them feedback that fits. So when they smile, you also smile, or you say things like, "Oh, you're happy." And when they look sad, you also look sad. And you said, "Oh, are you sad? Mom is here." And you have children develop some like preferences to explore what they like. Um, and you say things like, "I'm your mom and you're my sweet little girl," or "I'm glad you're here." So there's an I and a you. And kids are starting to develop that language and that consciousness. And they learn what's happening inside me. And it's there from the beginning. I mean, children have hunger from the beginning, or they have a stomach ache from the beginning, but they cannot name it. And it's a very important process to learn naming it, very important for the self. And it's key that we need someone interested in us. We need someone giving us feedback, so we can get interested in ourselves and what is going on in our internal world. Otherwise, it will not happen. When you're living alone in the wood and no one is asking you, you will not start to develop language and oh, what's happening here. So that's, as parents, I think I have no physical kids, but that's, I think, what you can do best for your kids, to recognize and mirror the expressions and to give lots of cues, lots of different cues. And what starts is when you do that the kids learn perspectives. Like this, I'm here, mom is there, mom is looking at me, I matter to mom. So when Randy says, "I'm glad you're here," these kids know, oh, we matter to dad. And dad's there and I'm here. This is not explicit, but it starts to develop. Or kids learn, oh, there are different perspectives. I think it's really fun to spread all the flour in the kitchen, but dad thinks that's not a good idea. Or I want to make mom happy. This is how it starts, that we um, adapt our behavior. We start to evaluate ourselves and to act according to what we picked up, what's good or bad. So we also kind of distort our behavior when it's not going so well, but we adapt in a good way to social rules when it's going well. And these are the two key processes, and that's pretty much that slide I showed in the beginning, that you recognize and name your own experiences, and that you learn about perspective taking. And both are key to have a good relationship to yourself and a good social life. And maybe to show that even more, without you, there is no I. Without here, there is no there. And without now, there is no then. These are the key perspectives kids learn for perspective taking. And these are the requisites that these self-repertoires can emerge. This is how we define it in ACBS and contextual science. This is also not fixed, but it's very helpful. It's very helpful to look at self as process, this capacity to name, to notice and name these internal experiences and external experiences that take place in the present moment. And it's very helpful to distinguish that we have this content of ourselves, that we think this is us. the narrative a person holds about themselves. And everyone has that, and we need it, definitely. We cannot walk around like empty figures and only be in the present, here and now. But it can become more static and foster rigidity. And then we define self as context that provides a perspective on both the process and the content. And self as context is something that remains consistent, but in a flexible way. So that's a bit of a um, yeah, dynamic thing. Very interesting. So now you are invited to contribute. A flexible self, how does that show up? What do you think? And I thought we do a Mentimeter here. If you're not familiar with that, you copy. Can you copy this?
No, do you want to copy
I
that and put
know.
that in
I
the...
need to open. Sorry, thank you. I interrupted you. I think I need to open this different window. Here. Okay. Can you see this? Oh,
Yes, we can see that.
okay, great. Now you can snap. Oh, you're so quick.
Yeah, so just open your camera, and most phones should be able to do it where you just open your camera, point it at the QR code, and it'll be taken to the website. And we have 19 responses so far.
Now it shows up. Mhm, mhm. Okay, very interesting. Open is the winner so far. Empathy is important, aware, willing, humor, very important, noticing, definitely. More open body posture, very good. Ability to adjust, very important. Self-awareness, diffuse self-language, very good points. Accepting, caring, playful. I'm open to describe. Choice shows up, very important point. When you develop self as context, you develop choice. Grounded, nuance, very good points. Yes, you can say yes. Some more people, I think, want to respond. Slowing down, also good. Flexible responses, yes, not always the same response, not always nice or always angry, but you can be flexible. Adaptation, you can adapt to the momentary circumstances. You can see what's really there. Humility, very nice. Reflective functioning, changes easily. Compassion, slower. Okay, and you see in the middle, the things that have been named most, definitely open, present, aware, willing, humor, choice, noticing, curious. Okay, great. Thank you very much for that. We go back. So you all have an idea of self as context. Now you can see the slides again, right?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. So that's what we all wish for, what showed up on the Mentimeter. This is what we want to foster. This is what we want for ourselves, for our kids. And sometimes it doesn't go so well. So let's look at that and what that means it doesn't go so well. Also on the different levels of the self. Very surely, it doesn't go so well for a kid when it has a lack of cues. So when parents don't talk about emotions, they are so busy that they have no time for the kids. They don't look at it, have no attention for it. It just cannot learn. What does that mean? What's here? What's going on here? And very similar when it always gets the same cues, when it gets rigid cues. So when parents are always cold or always controlling or always inconsistent or always over-evaluating, always blaming, intrusive, you can see that that is not encouraging for a kid to freely express what's there, to discover, to share. It will be very difficult for a kid to develop a flexible self under these conditions. And even more difficult when it has invalidating or hostile cues. There are parents who neglect their kids, who are aggressive, who are violent. So that's a very big burden. I guess you all have clients or see clients like that in your practice. I just think of a client who had to take care of her little siblings when she was 4. Like she had a little sister, and she had to do the washing and the food. And when you're 4, you cannot do that. And when she went to school, other kids they said you stink because she didn't wash and the mother didn't wash. She was a drug addict. So that's very difficult, of course, for children. The self is very restricted under these conditions. And maybe you can think of what that means for this capacity to notice and name your internal life. What do you think? And I would be happy if some of you would share what they think. There's nothing right or wrong. I just would put down some of your guesses. How does that impact this capacity of self as process? What do you think? And when you say something, you just switch on because now I don't see you. You just switch on that we can hear you. You unmute yourself and then you speak out loud. You don't need to show up. You just say it.
I mean, a
You may
persistent thought that I am wrong.
I'm wrong. Did I hear
Yes.
that right?
Yes,
That-
a persistent idea that there's something wrong. I'm wrong.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I'm wrong. I must be wrong. Yeah. Yeah, thank you very much. What else? There were more people.
you may not be able to understand your own feelings.
Yeah.
Not knowing what you want.
Yes. Yes. How could you when you don't feel inside? Yeah. Very good.
A belief that you're bad or unworthy.
Mm-hmm. Anything else?
I feel
Yeah.
like maybe a distrust in yourself. Like, how could I have not, if other people are noticing this, how could I have not noticed this? What's wrong with me?
Hmm. Very good points. Yeah. Let's see what I have. Um, that's what you observe in the practice. When you ask people, how does that feel? They often say, I don't feel anything, or it feels bad. But that's it. There is no nuance. I don't know what's right for me. So there are no labels for emotions. There's a lot of emotional avoidance. The girl, this young woman who was neglected, she came in my practice and she said, I overworked myself completely and I want to learn more about that and to not do that anymore, but I don't want to talk about emotions. This is how she came in. And obviously, of course, we stumble about her emotions and yeah, she started to trust and looked at them, but that was a very hard process for her. And she was like, it feels bad, but I cannot say more. And basically, you lose your internal compass or you don't find it at all. So that's why you cannot make good decisions, for example. And what do you think? What is the impact on self as content? And that's overlapping. You mentioned some of the points already here, like I'm wrong. Um, but maybe you can find some more points related to self as content. Are there some?
Not feeling good enough, maybe?
Yeah, definitely.
I think believing that you are not lovable.
Mm-hmm. And what is the stance people take to life? I mean, is that okay? It is like that, but it can be different. Probably not. It's more resignation,
Avoidance?
avoidance. Yeah. Somebody else wanted to say something?
It will always be this way.
That's a very important point. It will always be this way. Okay, let's look
A
at what.
failure,
Pardon?
a failure to distinguish that you're thinking from what you're thinking.
Oh God, yes. That must have been Hank, right, Hank? I don't see you, but
Yes,
I don't put it down, but definitely you cannot distinguish that you're thinking from that point of view. This is what I understood, at least. And it's mostly statements you will hear from those people, like truth. Like one woman, nobody ever listened to me. Or I knew it would go like that again. Or I'm such a failure. I better never trust man or woman. Um, so it's rules, we could say. Maybe we make up rules. And we could call that coherence and literality. People believe what they say. This is, I think, what Hang wanted to say. Um, and it's unhelpful self-labeling. I mean, when I label myself as a clinical psychologist, that's no problem. But when I say I'm the worst ever clinical psychologist, that would be a problem. And you get insensitive for context. You're so fused with your thinking and with your rules and with this whole narrative that you just cannot be present to what's really going on. Or you declare it, oh, that's an exception, for example. So, what would you see as the impact on self as context? And you see it's closely related. It's not like this is, yeah, you cannot differentiate these three aspects completely, but it's helpful to look at it in a little different way. What would you say is the impact on self as context when you don't get the cues you need, when you get rigid cues or yeah, invalidating or aggressive cues?
Well, I suppose if I do fail, I will consider myself only to be a failure and not notice that there's other parts of me that, sometimes I fail, sometimes I do okay, sometimes people even like what I do. I will feel I'm only a failure.
Yes, it's defining your whole self. That's me. I am a failure. Exactly. Yeah. No context, just this one thing. Yeah. Thank you. Who else?
Wouldn't it make it difficult to see someone else's point of view?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I think we can observe that very much around us. And it's such a key issue, what makes our social life so difficult, that we are not, so many people are not able, and I really think many are not able, and some are not willing to take others' perspective. And when you look at this from that point of view, you see where you can start. I mean, you can train that with people. It's not about fighting the content, telling people, but you're not only a failure. You can also be successful, or your point of view is very rigid. That's not the point. It's more like, oh, I mean, how could we loosen this very rigid content?
I have an inability to you just step back and notice. Kind
Yes.
of, yeah.
Very, very good. Thank you all for.
I guess that would go along with lack of choice because you're so overwhelmed by what's actually happening in the moment. The possibility of other ways of responding isn't there.
Absolutely. Yeah. There is not like, okay, this is how it feels, but maybe it could be like that, or maybe I could do that. This is just not there. It doesn't show up, and we all know that. We all know when we are like, I have to do that, and we don't see any choice. But when it becomes like a pattern in life, it becomes a big problem for people. And there are more points that you put your focus on the caregiver or on the other person. What do they expect from me? Because you're not connected here. You think what I want doesn't count anyway, because that's your experience. And people often get very they fight for their point when it isn't necessary. Like they always have to fight for their position. I don't care. A lack of compassion is one impact. I feel lost. There is no safety, no safe space. And what do they need? That's again the focus on the caregiver or the other person. And social contact can become very uncomfortable or even threatening. People can lack motivation because self as context is related to motivation or values, to bigger perspective. And that's missing. Does that make sense? Okay. But whatever we experience, and if we have great parents or not so great parents, we fill ourselves with content. And it's not so important. I mean, it's nicer to have good content, but it's also not so easy when you grow up with I'm the greatest and this is who I am. You struggle too, And one of you mentioned already the key point. It's not only this is who I am, it is this is who I will be. And that's the problem when you think you will always be that. You're not flexible anymore. And you lose touch with who else you can be. As kids, that's broad. So let's look at how we can foster a more flexible self. And I just want to check quickly how we are doing time-wise. I think we're doing great. Other questions up to here? Anything in the chat we should pay attention to?
I haven't seen any questions yet. So yeah,
Okay.
people haven't put anything yet. I think they're following, we're having people unmute and share things. So I think we're just all focused on what you're going through.
Okay, great. Any questions when I ask you right here? Okay. So we look at all three aspects of the self. And that was one of my most important discoveries when I wrote the book, to really do specific exercises for the three aspects of the self. I never distinguished it so clearly before. And I think it's key because when you try to do a self as context exercise with someone who cannot identify his own feelings, you will fail. It will not work. And it's very similar with all the other processes. That's also very important. When you have a client who cannot practice acceptance, who like you do diffusion exercises, they don't work. You try values, it doesn't work. So when all the processes don't really work, I guess that self as context is the key issue there. And I would look at the very basic capacity, how capable is the person to feel what's there, to experience what's there. And one of my favorite exercises is the one from Kirk Strosahl and Patty Robinson in their book In This Moment. It is very simple, and my clients pick it up very quickly, and they do it also at home, sorry. So this is an exercise they really feel it's valuable. And I practice it with them, and I invite you to do it with yourself. I do it quickly at the screen here. Let me stop the screen sharing. No. So maybe you can, show everyone. Yeah, that's great. So how I do it to help people identify what they notice is I walk around in the room because you have more experiences then, but you can do it seating too. And I do it like I see my cup of water here. I hear my own voice. I smell that I have an infection. I feel my butt in the chair. And I have this thought that I hope this is valuable for you, what I do here. And I feel a little bit tense, like, yeah. And I feel my breathing, and I start to relax a little bit as I get present now. And I see your faces, and I hear an airplane flying a little further away. And I think I will leave that up to you now to do the exercise. Do you get how it works? You change the levels all the time, the levels of perception. There's five senses, the internal experiences, body experiences, feelings, thoughts, And then again, five senses. And you never stay with one experience. You always go further. And that has multiple multiple benefits, but we talk about that later. I would like you to experience that first. You are all muted, so you can do that on your own. And you can just start like I did it on my screen. I will mute myself now, so you're on your own for a minute or so, and then I will come back. And please do it loud, not in your head, do it loud. Okay. And maybe you slowly come back. And I would be happy to have some people share their experiences if you notice an impact on yourself with this exercise.
I can
I
share.
think
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
Rachel,
please,
go for it.
Oh, okay. I was just going to say there was no space for anything else, which is always nice, isn't it? That
No
you're
space for?
like in my mind, there was no space for feeling silly or for, like sometimes that stuff shows up. But I was just trying to explore those different things and, like being in that present moment. So it was very, took my mind to quite a focused place. That was what showed up for me.
That's awesome, Rachel. Yes. And even if I'm silly showed up, you could just name it and say, I have this thought, I'm silly. Yeah, sometimes I have this thought. So well done. Thank you. Yeah, Trevor, you wanted to share too.
I'm noticing a raised heart rate as I speak to you guys.
Wow, I'm so grateful that you participate. Thank you so much. It makes it much more vivid and yeah, you can get it better, I think. Yeah, Trevor, thanks for your heart rate, for your high heart rate.
There was a real sense of stability in the sense of I. There was a real stability from that perspective that was interesting, particularly as you moved through the room, moved through the experience. That was that was really nice.
Very great. You did that in a very short time to have this experience of a stable I. Thank you, Trevor. Fatima.
Mhm. Okay, so I will share and ask a question regarding my sharing. So I felt my heart beats and my cold leg, and I started reflecting when you started sharing this, and when you told us to say it out loud, I was curious behind the rationale of saying it out loud because I felt discomforted when I said it out loud. I was more comfortable when I just connected to my senses in my mind. So I'm curious to know uh, the rationale behind saying what we feel out loud in the room.
And did you do it loud or did you do it?
Yeah,
Oh,
both. First, I started before you tell us to say it out loud. And then when you told us to say it out loud, I did that. But I felt the discomfort. I felt the difference between the first time and second time.
Yeah, and what was the difference? Was it only discomfort, or did you feel any other difference?
Yeah, I was discomfort because I did I was not aware of the rationale behind saying it out loud.
So you wondered, why should I
Yeah,
say it out loud? Yeah.
yeah,
And did you feel a different effect when you said it out loud?
yeah. I felt more disconnected.
More disconnected. Okay. Yeah. That's important. I mean, when you do an exercise, you never know how it is for that client. When a client feels so uncomfortable with speaking out loud, then maybe I would look at that, you know. And the rationale behind is when you speak it out loud, you cannot get lost in your thoughts.
Okay.
Very simple. You know, you just notice if you go from one thing to another. When you try it, you do it in your thoughts, you will very quickly get hung up in one thought, you know.
So it might differ from one to another,
Do you mean
right?
from person to person? Yes, yes, every exercise. And it's always good to observe. And when the person doesn't feel comfortable, maybe you would start with doing it just like in your head. And then maybe you could go to doing it loud at one point.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for sharing this observation, Fatima.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Ben, you wanted to share too in the beginning?
Yeah, I just thought it was a cool way of really dialing in. And sometimes as being a part of this community that we'll run into exercises will people that will ask you to go back into a memory or a moment and then like in this memory, like notice what sounds were there and smells were there. And I really have trouble with that sometimes because I was like not paying attention with whatever memory in the past. So I like taking moments now and realizing like my book has a smell to it and I can see these other details. So in case anyone wants to ask me to reflect, like I can, be present with whatever's happening, pick a moment in my past. So anyways,
Yeah,
that
that's
was a
great.
cool way of
Yeah,
really dialing in.
very good. And this exercise, oh, Lorraine, you wanted to say something too?
Wanted to say briefly that I was very curious about my discomfort about speaking it out loud because the practice of noticing and shifting is very familiar, but speaking wasn't. And so I even explored the discomfort by standing in front of the window and talking to myself and just noticing what that felt like. So it was a very interesting practice, and the speaking made a difference.
Awesome. And what did you discover about your discomfort, Lorraine? Would you like to share that?
It made me laugh. I thought how inhibiting it is, how often I'm shackled by avoiding a discomfort that's really quite small and not that important. I couldn't help laughing.
That's great, isn't it? Awesome. And I do a lot of that stuff that might feel a little uncomfortable with my clients, and I do it first, you know. I speak loud, or I speak in an angry voice, or I do what, like, to show it's possible, and you don't have to be attached to it. And it's no problem to do that. And you can be flexible with it and go back to a low voice too. So it's good to to have a lot of how would you say that different cues in your practice too, you know. It helps people to not always speak in that kind therapy voice, but it helps them to laugh and to make jokes when it's adequate, and then to be serious again. But you just allow yourself to self-express as as a therapist too. That allows your clients to self-express more. I hope that makes sense. And I said this exercise is very beneficial. Actually, Kirk and Patty created it in primary care, I think mainly for people who were in a kind of emergency mode. And it helps you calm down in the present moment. And you can do it anywhere. So when you notice that you're distressed, or you're in the supermarket in a long queue and you have a meeting, things like that, you can do it. Okay, I'm standing, I feel my feet on the ground. I notice how excited I am. I have this thought that I will be late. And when you do that, and when you get in the present moment, maybe you can find something that works. Maybe a thought comes to your mind that does not come when you stay in your emergency mode. Like, oh, I could call this person and say I might be late, or whatever it is, But getting into the present moment normally opens up new behaviors, new possibilities. And it sounds so simple, but it never ends. However skilled you are, it never ends. And when you do it today, now, you did it, it worked, it doesn't help you tomorrow, you have to do it again. Yeah, it's a lifelong process. Oh, I just saw a question. Would you prefer to do it loud in the supermarket? I think maybe not in the supermarket. You might get different problems then. Yeah, but in a car, yes. Okay, thank you very much for your willingness. Mm, let me see. So, when a person is not so skilled, some people really, they cannot even name any emotion. You start very low level. You can start with body experiences. You can start with, can you feel your hand? Okay. Can you feel, can you feel your hand when you lay it somewhere on your body? Can you feel it, what the hand feels? Can you feel what your body feels? So you start to get inside the body. It starts outside, and then you get inside. And uh, like, you get what I mean? I hope you start very slow with that client. You have to build it from the bottom up. Otherwise, people will not get what you're talking about. And sometimes you have to practice very long. I have clients, I just think of a policeman who came because he dropped back into alcohol, and he had problems at his workplace, and he wanted to know what's going on. He was one of these people who were not able to identify what was going on inside. And it took a while, and I noticed that he was a very skilled, open, nice person. But then I realized he does not, he just cannot say what's going on here. And then we started to do that, and it took a while, and it took a while of, I have no idea, I don't know, I can tell. And then you start to, you try to get a little glimpses, and you make clear it's not the person's fault, it's just something they have not learned. It's a lack of tools. Okay. Key points I see about Safa's process is, of course, to help clients notice and describe or name their internal and external perceptions, to be very confirming and I'm really interested in people. I'm really interested in what they experience, whatever it is. It's not that I think they should experience that now. That does not help. It shuts down the space. Our openness is others' context. Our openness is key. When you're really interested, when you're not interested, don't do this exercise. Just do something else. But maybe you can get interested because it's so, I mean, isn't it beautiful that a person who has neglected this internal life for their whole life, that when they start to feel it, when they start to get some sensations, when you can ask, is there any name you could give to this feeling? And they start to get this. As I think it's a beautiful process. And sometimes it's tiring because it lasts a while. So that's the point when you get back to yourself and you say, okay, I bring self as context to myself and love to myself and understanding to myself that this is not an easy point as a therapist. And this is like setting the foundation to get out of the head. And most of the clients, they can describe very well what their problems are and they can talk for hours about their problems, but that does not help them. We need some of that content, of course, but much less than they think. The key moments are when you get into the present moment. When you say, okay, can we stop here for a moment? And can we really find out what that means for you? Because it seems to be important when people say the same thing again and again and again. You can say, oh, that seems to be really important. You said that more often. Can we stop here and get what you feel when you say that to me, when you tell this? That could be one start. So that's also about acceptance. You get that the other processes are coming in here. But the first step is noticing. Yeah. And when you cannot accept, you can always accept that you cannot accept. Okay, you don't want to go there. Okay, can you notice that you don't want to go there? And that's very important. Thank you for saying that to me. Thank you for not just doing what I say. And can you allow this resistance? Can you allow not wanting to go there? That's completely fine. Okay, let's go to the next process, self as content. We can be very entangled with our self as content, right? Maybe we could share some of our self as content, and uh, it can be any self content, or it doesn't have to be difficult one. Can it just so we get an idea, and everyone here gets an idea. What is that? What does that mean? Self as content. Just say it out loud.
Therapist?
I'm a therapist.
Therapist who works with oncology patients.
Yes. Thank you, Lori. What's your content?
Not a therapist.
Not a therapist. You get how thinking works. Okay, and can you get that? We are a little narrow here. Yeah.
Energized.
Huh?
An energetic person.
An energetic person, definitely. Thank you. I
Hiker,
confirmed myself.
grandparent, wife, daughter.
Thank you, Lynn.
British.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Could be something like even I'm not a patient person, or I am a patient person.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, very good. Yeah. I'm happily married. I have a cold. Um, I do workshops. I do archery.
Someone in the chat said someone who is struggling.
Mm-hmm. Like that's the content, or the person
Yeah,
is struggling.
I think they were giving
Oh,
an example, like someone who's
very
struggling.
good. Yeah, thank you for that. Okay. Everyone has an idea what self as content is. Vanessa, I'm strong. You are strong. Vanessa is from Peru, and she is a strong person. I'm too busy. Oh my God, who knows that one? I'm too busy. Very often. Working class. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a good idea to use the chat. Great. Yeah. Okay. Anything. I'm not good in RFT. Karen from Brazil. Great to see you. I'm not smart enough. Yes. Me neither. I'm not smart enough. I wished I would be smart as Steve Hayes. Yeah. Great. Okay. So what do we do with that self content? I mean, it's not a problem, you know, most of what we said is not a problem. Even to think I'm not smart enough is not a problem. I mean, I can think I'm not smart enough and write a book about self as content context. So you can do that. There's no problem. No, it's not no problem. That's not true. But you can go beyond what you think. But when you're not able anymore to go beyond what you think, when you think that is the truth, does everybody know this hands as thoughts exercise? Yeah, I find it so powerful. I do it very often with my clients, and they completely get it. Like this is, I'm looking through my experiences on the world, and I just see what my experiences allow me to see. I mean, it makes complete sense when you do the exercise. And then, and that now is self as context, you can get aware of your experiences and of looking through your experiences, and then you can look at them instead of through them. And that's a huge difference. And they don't go away, but it makes a big difference if you are aware of it in that moment. So that's an exercise I also use often for people. And yeah, how do we recognize rigid self-content? What would you say? Maybe I stop screen sharing again. How do you recognize it's rigid and it shows up often? Yes?
Despite evidence of like counter despite evidence of counter evidence, they still believe they're rigid self-content.
Yes. You believe it despite a lack of evidence, and when something else happens that's contradictory, you say that's the exception, but I'm right. Not negotiable. No, not negotiable. Black and white. Yeah. What else? When I express a wish to be able to do something differently, it feels old or true, part of us. Yeah. Mhm. Thank you, Trevor. Okay, let's look at what I put together. It doesn't acknowledge nuance. Definitely not. So it's global statements like, I'm a failure, I always win, I'm not a courageous person. It's predicting the future. I will never find a good relationship. Or with this trauma, I can never be happy. You find justifications and defensiveness. So people can explain very well why they are not able to do something. It's like my father, I'm an alcoholic, and my father was an alcoholic already. Or this is an exception, we said that already. And you have no idea how difficult that is. And the behavioral repertoire is very narrow. Like you can just always be nice and not set borderlines, or you are a rebel and you do what you want. You cannot do what anyone else says to you. Yeah. So the narrowness is the key point. As we have some time, so I have two exercises here. One is the mango tree exercise. Yeah, I think we will do that one because it's easier for everyone to do that. It's an exercise. It's an exercise we invented in Sierra Leone, where I do the work with my NGO. And especially one of the social workers, Edmund, was a key person to invent that. And if you want, you can switch off your camera because we are standing up for this exercise. And I will leave my camera on. Maybe it's distracting to see me standing up and looking at me. I will just guide you with my words through the exercise. So what you do is to stand up when you're willing to do that. If not, you go and get coffee or tea. But when you're willing to try something new that comes from Sierra Leone, the mango tree exercise, you choose an area in your life where you feel maybe a little bit stuck, a little bit rigid. You think you could need new ideas. Don't take the worst thing in your life, but take something that's important to you. And I give you a minute to find that. Okay, and when you found something, just notice that you feel tense or rigid or however that feels for you, but notice that there is something that's not flexible. That's like you feel stuck, maybe, and how that feels in your body, and find a body posture that's more like stuckness, straight, with tense knees, maybe. And feel your breathing and feel the tenseness. And maybe you can allow that for a moment. Yeah, that is something I feel tense with. I feel stuck with. And then imagine you're one of these trees. In Sierra Leone, they have a lot of mango trees. This is how we call the exercise. You can choose any tree. It should be a young tree, a tree that's flexible. And imagine you're this tree and there's a slight wind coming. It's moving you. And your body starts to move. And allow the wind you imagine to move your body, to move your arms, to move your legs, your head, and the whole body, very softly. Feel your breathing. Maybe it can become a little deeper. And maybe the wind can become a little bigger and the movement can become bigger. And the arms can swing. And your body can swing. And nobody can see you, so it's no problem. You can fully express yourself with this wind and being this tree and breathing and finding the movements that are fun for you and you like it to move like that. And when you feel silly, it's fine too. And you move even more. And the wind gets really strong. And then slowly the wind calms down. And you calm down. And your movements get slower. But you stay a little flexible. Stay in a little movement and you think of the same issue you thought of before. And you ask yourself, is there anything new I can see now? Any new experience I can bring to that? Feel your breathing, allow things to come up. And then thank yourself for the willingness to participate in this exercise. And if you didn't, thank yourself for finding out what's right for you. And then when you are ready, you can come back to the screen and turn on your camera again. And when you're willing, I'm very curious to hear if that little exercise moved something for you. And if not, you share that too, please. We don't have to be pleasers.
It just felt like the opposite of stuckness. It's like, oh yeah, I can move. And after doing it for even a couple seconds, um, it shifted how I was thinking about this issue. So I really liked it.
Thank you, Jake. And isn't it great how we can use body movement, simple body movement like that? That is flexibility, and it works on all levels, and it transfers. Thank you so much for sharing that and for allowing the experience. Anybody else? Some people were nodding. You can say, yeah, Fatima.
Yeah, it was very interesting for me visualizing what I'm thinking of, visualizing when you said, I was thinking, how can I visualize the posture of what I'm thinking of? And then I found the visual of what I'm thinking of. So I'm very I'm very I'm observing this. It was new for me.
So the picture, how about the rigid posture, you mean? That was new for you?
Yeah.
Very good. Yes. And did you find some flexibility with the exercise too?
Yes, yes.
Awesome. Thank you, Fatima.
Thank you.
Any other experiences?
Well, I couldn't exactly tell you what I would be doing differently about the situation now, but it's a very strong image of kind of, approaching the situation differently. Maybe just, if I get into the situation again, I'll just, remember the swaying tree, see what it's going to do for me.
Awesome. So we can try something new and then evaluate if it works better than what you did before. Yeah. And when it doesn't work, you can try something else. Great. Thank you for sharing that. Okay. Some people were nodding. It looks like you had some similar experiences. Anybody had a very different experience? I mean, you can share anything.
I don't know. Excuse me. This is a very different experience. It was just sort of maybe a coincidental experience where, as soon as you said, imagine a tree, I started swaying, like before you invited us to start moving. And I think what struck me about that experience is how I think that really rigidity, that rigid posture is not, for lack of a better term, it's not a natural state. It's actually quite uncomfortable and it's
It
not
is.
natural versus just that swaying and that movement is our natural state, is sort of this flexibility and this, it's always changing, it's always different. And so, yeah, I don't know, does it, with the particular content that I had in mind that I started with, does that change how I would approach? I'm not sure either, but I think it just brings to the forefront of like holding fast to something really tightly and rigidly is actually not yeah, like yeah, natural, right? There's this, you have to actually force it. There's an effort to it,
Yeah.
whereas like moving is actually so much more effortless.
I'm so glad you're sharing that, Samara. Yeah, because I think the same thing. When you look at babies, emotions just run through them. When they are angry, when they feel discomfort, when they feel joy and laughter, there is no barrier. It's just like one after the other. And this is our natural state of being. Yeah. And when you're not a rock, maybe for a rock it's more natural to keep something, but we are not rocks. Yeah, we are moving human beings. And it's much more natural to be flexible. And that's a good message, I think, because we get back to something that's natural, that's different from discovering something we had never had before. So we help our clients to get back to their natural state. It's not even a state, to their natural capacity. Very good. Thank you. Yeah. And you get how rich it becomes when you share. Thank you very much. So now let's look at self as. Oh, and the other exercise, maybe left foot, right foot, is one I described in the book, and it would be a bit longer. I would like to do a real play if one of you is willing to do that, to show the one exercise about self as context I often use. And this left foot, right foot is very similar, that you get up from your chair and you walk, you first stand, like this is where you are. Are you willing to stand here? This is the acceptance part. And when people accept, that's the first step, like left foot, I accept where I am. And then where do you want to go? And what's the valuable direction? And they define that. And then they find one step. And it's amazing what comes from this movement, from doing that walking, really. It's very different from sitting in the chair. So I recommend that highly to everyone who is interested in flexibility to do it physically. Yeah. Key points about self as content. What I said, physical experience is especially important. And then people can really get in touch with what's there, because there's always some pain in a rigid concept or in self as content. And they make new experiences in that very moment, like you all experience that. And another point is exploring the function of the behavior. I see important because it validates the client. It's not like I'm the stupid person, I'm doing the same thing again and again. But that's a key issue of act work anyway. But here in that regard, I wanted to mention it again. So the intention is to increase awareness and distance from self-content and to broaden perspectives. This is what we tried in the exercise, and to find new behaviors. Okay. And now we come to the key point of this whole presentation, which is not true, which is not fully true, because you cannot practice self as context without the steps before. So you cannot start there. So it's not a key point. The key point is you do all of the steps, or the client is able to take all of the steps when they come to see us. And practicing self as context, I love to do one exercise, and I call it flexible perspective taking. So I would like to do this exercise with one of you. And when one of you is willing to do that, you can take the issue you had before, like a thing you feel a bit stuck about. And as I said earlier, don't take the most important thing in your life that you tried to resolve since 30 years. But you can. I mean, we see how far we go. But I would like to demonstrate how you can start with what's there, with the self as process, and then how you can go to self as context from there, and go back and forth. You can even role play a client if you prefer that. Yeah, but I think it helps a lot to see how I am doing that. So if someone is willing, that would be great. Issa, thank you so much. You're very bold. Thank you.
I'm gonna pin the both of you, Beate. So
Is that possible?
I believe so. Now I gotta find you first.
Mm-hmm.
Where did you go?
So I'm talking, so I'm green, and now Issa might be talking.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, for some reason though, like I have Aisa pinned and you are nowhere. I'm going through like all the sections here.
So, no.
So should we
No.
close the cameras so that you
There
can
we go. Okay,
hear?
I found you. There we go. Okay, so can everyone see Aisa and then Beate?
Pardon?
Are people here able to see Aisa and Beate as pinned?
I don't see him and
Oh,
me as
okay. So then I did not do that for everyone. So then I need to do that, and then I need to
Mhm.
do there. That work?
Yes, work.
Okay,
Very
good,
good.
good,
I'm so
good.
glad I have your expertise, Ben.
Thank you.
Thank you, Issa. Yeah.
Thank you,
So
Beate.
we kind of create this intimate space, and yeah, maybe we can connect first. And we know each other a little bit.
Yeah.
We have met in Egypt 2 weeks ago
Yeah.
for a beautiful meal.
Mhm.
Yeah. And now you're willing to share something where you feel a little bit stuck, where you feel tense.
Yeah.
You don't have to say too much about it. Just what you think is important for me to know to guide you a little bit through your experiences.
Yeah. I think the thing that came to my mind with the mango tree exercise
Yeah,
was me taking care of my physical health.
of your physical health.
Yeah,
Wow.
and because I've been ignoring that for the past years, relying on my like earlier days that I used to do, like I used to do sports and I had like a good body, and then I was like, I dropped this and I can see now the decline. So this is like a space that I have been investigating lately, and yeah, still has this tension and inflexibility and rigidity that I carried with me along the past years. As how do I deal with that?
Yeah. Okay, that's very courageous to share that. Thank you very much, Isa. And I have a strong assumption that you're not the only person in this Zoom room who's dealing with that. So it will be a great example for everyone. Thank you very much. So when you share about that here, and you breathe, what do you feel in your body when you allow your breathing? And just give yourself a few moments. There's nothing you have to do right now. I will guide you through this.
Yeah.
What can you feel in your body when you follow your breath?
I feel it's heavier than
Mhm.
I'd love it to be.
It's heavy, and the second part was?
Heavier than I would love it to be.
Ah, okay, very good. Yes. Yeah. Okay, so you breathe in the heaviness. And can you locate where in the body you feel this heaviness?
Mostly around my belly,
Hmm.
but it's also in like the rest of my body as well.
Yeah, so it's in all the body and the center is in your belly.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you for noticing that and sharing it. And can you continue to breathe in and imagine with every breathing in, you let your breathing flow to the heavy part of your belly. Nothing else you have to think of in this moment. Just follow your breath and allow it to flow softly to this tense part, to this heavy part of your belly. And maybe when you breathe in and your breath flows there, you can imagine you you give it space with the breathing, like blowing up a balloon internally. When the air flows in, it widens the space for the heaviness and even invites the heaviness. Like, yeah, it's not so comfortable or it's more heavy than I would love it to be. But for this moment, I'm willing to allow this experience in my body. And I give it space. And if you like, you can confirm this by giving a yes into your breathing out. So you're breathing in, let your breath flow to the heavy feeling in your body, to your belly. You give it space. And with breathing out, you give it a yes. For this moment, for this breath, I'm willing to have this experience. And there's nothing that should happen. It's about observing how that is when you do that, when you move your attention fully to this heaviness in the belly. You give it space. Is there anything you can notice? Like, oh, it stays how it is. Or it becomes stronger, it becomes more heavy. Or it changes a little bit. And whatever you experience is interesting and valuable.
Okay, yeah. What I noticed as I was breathing in the beginning was it was very interesting that I felt the heaviness like jump out of your body and stay on my desk.
The heaviness jumped out of your body onto your desk.
Yeah.
How amazing is that? Just with your breathing.
Yeah. But then
Okay.
I noticed like a rejection towards
Mhm.
it jumping back in my body
Mm.
when you invited me to to just give it the space. It was
Mm-hmm.
easier for me to give it the space when it's out of my body, not in my body.
Mm-hmm.
And then I tried to kind of give it that space in my body.
Mm-hmm.
Still feels uncomfortable.
It feels uncomfortable?
Yeah, having that heaviness in my body is,
Mm-hmm.
can see how uncomfortable that is.
Mm-hmm.
And, um,
Yeah.
yeah, it feels like I believe I can give it the space, but it's not like um, not very welcome.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I get
yeah,
it.
it's acceptable, but
Mm-hmm.
not welcome.
Yes. You would prefer to have it outside of your body
Yeah,
on your
of
desk.
course. Yeah.
Yeah, I get that completely. But when you listen to your body, and you give it space, you can feel it's still there,
Mm,
and you can feel the discomfort.
yeah.
And thank you for being courageous and feeling the discomfort.
Mm,
And there's nothing you should do with it. That's already, yeah, what is your accomplishment to have it there, to feel it and to allow it. It's huge.
yeah.
And maybe you can do that for a few more breaths. And when you feel it's too much, you could say anytime, that's enough now. But when it's okay, maybe you can take 2 or 3 more breaths and allow it. And when you're willing, I would do one more step with you. Would that be okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mm.
So, can you notice that you're sitting there doing this exercise with me, feeling your discomfort, your heaviness in your belly?
Mm,
Can you notice that?
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Great. So you can feel the discomfort in your body, the heaviness in your belly, and you can notice that you feel the heaviness in your belly, right?
Mm,
Mm-hmm. And we could say that you're connected to your observer capacity now. It's a
mm,
capacity we all have. We can observe ourselves. We can notice, I'm doing that right now, right here.
mm,
Can you relate to that? Yeah, I think I can observe myself doing this exercise here.
mm, yeah.
Great. And the observer, do you feel this more from like to notice yourself from inside yourself or from outside yourself? It's different for different people, and both is fine.
No, it's from outside.
From outside, yeah. So you can notice yourself from outside, and maybe we could say it's like getting a little distance from the feeling in your body. Could we say that? Is that what you experience?
Yeah.
When Mhm.
It's like getting, interestingly, it's like I get into the shoes of like someone I love who's just noticing me now.
Mhm.
That's how it feels.
Well, that means you can look at yourself with love now from the shoes of someone you love. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Wonderful. And the person who looks at you lovingly, does the person have the discomfort in the belly, the heaviness in the belly, or does the person observe that you have the discomfort in your belly?
It observes that I have the discomfort.
Mm-hmm. Oh, great. So you have this little distance now, and you've done 2 steps. You went very close to the feeling and you got some distance, and maybe you can go back once more to get very close to the feeling, like feeling it in your body, breathing, having the discomfort, the heaviness, without doing anything about it, allowing it. Is that possible?
Yeah.
Awesome.
I think it's less discomforting now.
Very good. And now notice it's a little bit less discomforting, so you can feel that, right? And maybe you can go back to the observer perspective again and notice, yeah, it feels a little less discomforting now, a little less heavy, maybe. Is that possible too, to go back to your capacity to observe yourself? Great. Yeah. And you could practice that more to go close to the feeling, to the body experience, and to take that step back. But now I would propose that we close the exercise and that that you take a little time to reorient. And when you're willing, when you're ready, you can open your eyes again and share how this was for you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Issa. This was very
Thank you. Yeah.
great. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm aware of the time. We have 3 more minutes. So I'm sorry, it's a bit
No.
little time.
I think it's always interesting to visit these like tensions I have, and when I'm in like experiencing the feeling itself, it's way different than when I'm observer. Like when I'm here, it's way different than when I'm there. I think this was like the first time to go back and forth, go there and come there.
Yeah.
I could see how different that is. And that exercise opened my curiosity to visit like what else is there in that tension, in that aspect of my life.
That's great.
Yeah.
It's easier like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Beate.
Yeah, you're so welcome, Issa. Thank you very much. Maybe we can open it up for everyone for a last sharing. Yeah. And because we are so late now, is that anything you could imagine to do yourself in your practice? Yeah. And anything, yeah, that would be valuable to try, or is that something you do anyway? Maybe I don't know.
I mean, maybe I'm just putting my stupidity on display now, but I was really impressed how this surface context can also be looking at yourself in pain from a bit of distance, and how you distinguish between, you can step a bit, you can experience from the outside and from the inside, this surface context thing, because really it kind of connected so nicely to the developmental perspective you introduced us earlier, showing us that when we grew up, we depended on others to see our pain and help us label the pain. And what you just did with Essa is he did it to himself by kind of stepping back and looking at himself in pain. And in the moment he did it, he felt love towards himself, what we experience, with our kids or with our loved ones when they are in pain. That was very powerful. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Philip. Yeah, I
And
think you
it
put it
makes
very well.
practicing self as context much easier for me now.
That was the intention. Thank you so much. That was my hope. Yes. And maybe to give you the last slides, there are a lot of people who have to go, and I can stay on for a few minutes. I just would like to give you the last slides. Yeah, this is what we did. I mean, we gave a context. I gave a context to Issa, and I always try to include myself. And this was the exercise. And then a few key points to being the other's context in the conversation. Who is noticing that? That's a great question to bring people back to their perspective and practicing multiple perspectives in time, in space, values, all kinds of perspectives are valuable. And it derives with lots of practice. So it's not a one time done thing. It derives. Okay, and that's the book and how you can get it in different platforms. And that's the link to donate if you would like to do that. And I don't know if you can attach the slides, Ben, to the presentation on YouTube. Is that possible?
I might be able to. I'll have to see, but I'll talk with you
Okay.
about it. And
Yes.
if I can't, then of course people can email me or you to get the slides.
Yes, you can absolutely do that. And that's like the good to read and some citations I made. Okay, I think that was it. Sorry for being a little bit over the time. And thank you so much for your participation. And thanks for all the hearts. Yes, and if someone would like to share, I'm very happy to hear that. It was the first time I presented after I wrote the book, so I'm very willing to have your feedback. And maybe I give you my email address in the chat, so you can use it to get the slides. And goodbye to everyone who
Do you
has
want
to
me to
go.
do you want me to end the recording here now?
Oh, yes, please.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much.